Again, welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And we are pre-taping the Wednesday before our Monday air because tomorrow is New Year's Eve and nobody wants to be sitting in front of a camera trying to make sense of the world when we could be imbibing some nice whatever. Brought to you by the good graces of EVT Educational Productions and Manhattan Neighborhood Network and Zoom. So this is going to air Monday the 4th, which is one day before the Georgia runoff elections and 2 days before the last craziness that might take place. But let's not start with that. Let's start with what we have been ignoring because we've been talking about the crazy politics, and let's do a coronavirus report card, guys. I saw where the Brits just announced that they are actually putting into wide distribution something that was done with Oxford and AstraZeneca over in England. And that vaccine has just been made available to the general public based on the headline I saw. Did you guys see anything on that?
I didn't see that one, no.
Yeah, it broke today. I think it was one of my New York Times inboxes feed. So you've got the AstraZeneca, Oxford, you've got the Moderna, which is done in conjunction with NIH, and we want to talk about that some more. And of course, we have the first one that came out of the box, which was, what was the name of that company?
The Pfizer?
Pfizer.
Yeah.
The first one out of the box, and I'm having mental problems from remembering the name. But one of the things I want to start with is the craziness that's been floating around on social media. Tell me a little about what you've seen up there, Ray, and what you've seen up there, Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I mean, I've been watching TV and a couple other things, and you still have people walking around saying that they're afraid to take the vaccine for either religious reasons or because they're afraid that it's some kind of plot against a certain some people. So there's a little bit of a hesitancy to even when even when it's their turn to go up there and take the vaccine. So I hope that doesn't continue.
You know, for some people, the Tuskegee experiments are still vivid in their minds. Some of those people who had actual experience with that are still alive, I think. I mean, family members, not obviously the participants. But that sticks in people's minds. And it's handed down from generation to generation. And there was already a mistrust of the government in a lot of areas, and it hasn't gone away. So I sort of understand this. You know, I had a friend recently take the Moderna. Actually, yesterday she took it. She's a nurse, and I'm waiting to see what her symptoms are, if any. So far, she's good. You know, so I'm hoping for the best.
And just to be clear, Ray, for the people who are younger, just to be clear, the Tuskegee case you were talking about was about medication that they didn't ask for, tests they didn't.
Medication that they didn't ask for. Men who suffered from syphilis who were supposedly taking a cure.
Antibiotics and a cure, we're not doing it. Yeah, the bottom line is they told them that they were part of a study and they were going to see how they would respond. And they were the guinea pigs in the study because they never got any medication. They were allowed to let the syphilis run rampant in their bodies, and they only did that to those black men in Tuskegee. They didn't do that to any other people. And so black people who know they've been guinea pigs. Look, there was a guy who had still has a statue somewhere in New York, which I'm told maybe need to check with Dr. Singer. He knows those statues. This guy was a gynecologist expert. Supposedly, he did all his experimentation on black women during the 19th century with no anesthesia. All these kudos that he got for all his advances in gynecology done on the bodies of black women, enslaved women with no anesthesia whatsoever. So he basically tortured those women for his scientific advancement. And those are the kinds of historical bad stuff that they have done to black people. And so, yeah, we understand that.
You'll be happy to know, Eric, I forget the doctor's name. You'll be happy to know that statue was removed from Central Park.
It was, I was just about to ask about that. It was, okay.
Yeah, I know Dr. Singer was one of the people advocating for that big time. And so it's good to know that that's gone. And we as journalists and historians, I call myself a historian for those documentary stuff that we've done over the years, we know what that history is. But also as journalists, it's our duty to report and report well. And so one of the things that I've been trying to debunk, or at least get people to put in perspective, because someone sent me an email, asked me to contact them after I had posted on one of those threads on Facebook where people were talking about this is a plot by Big Pharma to make sure they make a ton of money on Black people, and you need to not be going down this road, et cetera, et cetera. And looking at the studies that have been done and the report that this gentleman sent me, he actually sent me a Wall Street Journal article. And I'd seen these numbers before, but because he had sent me that as a way of buttressing the fact that we needed to watch out for Big Pharma making money and sending us to the wolves, was 6 cases of allergic reaction were reported after the Pfizer vaccine was given. Now, those 6 cases that were reported turned out to be 6 out of 271,000 and change people being vaccinated. So as journalists, we have to say to people, all right, we understand that there is a possibility of adverse reaction, and people with underlying conditions who have allergens and are susceptible to allergies need to take, and the vaccine people have put that caveat out, take these vaccines under the supervision of medical professionals, preferably in a hospital setting for those of you with allergies, in case there are any adverse reaction. But 6 out of 271,000 plus, the cost benefit ratio, the risk benefit ratio, as a journalist, I would be recommending that people are on the side of taking a vaccine where only 6 people get an allergic reaction after 271,000 plus. I understand that there are allergic reactions in both the first 2 ones, Moderna and Pfizer. Let me not speak for sure. I thought I saw a report, but I could be wrong. Moderna may not have had any allergic reaction, but I think they put out a caveat that you should be prepared for any such eventuality just in case. And I don't know about the third one, what their allergic reactions are. But because the Black community, people of color, do have this problem and this scare, I think we should. Bob, I hope you've got that article handy somewhere.
Well, while you're talking, I'll try to pull it up.
Okay. And if you can't, let me know, because I think it's in my file. But there's a doctor who spent the last 6 years of her research career at NIH and whatever the subset of NIH, NIAID, which I believe is the National Institute of Allergens and Infectious Diseases. Right. Okay. I got that one right. She has been in the forefront of this research to the point where it is basically some of her and her team's work that enabled them to fast track this vaccine. That's her picture that you just popped up on the screen, right, Bob?
Yes, I hope you can see the article. At least you might have to move the video around with you.
Headline says, Corbett recounts quest for COVID vaccine. And Corbett, long before COVID-19 became a global crisis, scientists at NIH. Vaccine Research Crisis Center were examining the fundamental mechanics of coronavirus. And recounting those efforts, Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, a senior research fellow who spent the past 6 years working with VRC, strategist in NIAID's viral pathogenesis laboratory, VPL, and who's become a central figure in COVID vaccine science, recently discussed SARS-CoV mRNA vaccine development enabled by this pathogen preparedness protocol that they have been on for the last 6 years. And basically she says, let me quote her, the way we think about coronavirus vaccine development is fairly simple. Because coronavirus is always poised for human emergence, we need a vaccine that is fast, something that has the technology to be produced in vast quantities very quickly, also reliable, a technology that has been tested in humans and upholds some level of manufacturability standards. Something we could at least provide a plug and play strategy if an outbreak should occur. And basically, because of the 6 years of research using that plug and play mentality, they were able to pull the trigger so that I believe when the COVID SARS hit in around March of last year, by April, where's that quote? If you keep moving that, I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, sorry.
66 days later, they were able to put that vaccine into the phase 1 clinical trials, which is the first step in testing. 66 days after, and that's because of her 6 years of previous research. Now, what I'm doing in highlighting Dr. Corbett for our viewers is you look at her picture and you see that is us working on trying to find the cure and the vaccine for this disease that's predominantly killing Black and brown people more than other people. So using our scientific data and our scientific research, I'm taking ownership of her stuff for all of us people out here. Using that, folk, rest assured that she's not trying to kill her own people. She's been doing this research to try to help her people. And thanks to her research, we have a fast track vaccine. Never mind the guy in the White House trying to claim credit for it. Guess what? Behind the scenes, what do these women say? Behind every quote, great man is a great woman. Here's the great woman behind the great man.
Or in front of the great man. Yeah.
Leading the charge.
Yes.
So I definitely want to commend her and the people at NIH, because people forget that her work and her colleague, I know she didn't do this by herself. Her boss actually is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the head of NIAID and NIH. I forget what his full title is, but she's a member of his team. She's been in the lab doing this work. And because of it, we have a fast track vaccine that, what is she saying? Reliable, safe, and fast. And now she's looking for one that's universal, so that when this mutant strain comes along or the next COVID comes along, we don't have to worry about starting from scratch. We got this vaccine already on the shelf or ready to be plugged in the plug and play mentality that she's advocating.
No, I'm glad you got this positive story out. I'm glad you got a hold of this. Somebody sent you this tip, because yeah, we have a lot of hesitancy and talking about this is they're just going after our people with this, just like you said, going after our people with this vaccine. But this is dead on proof that no, there's no conspiracy out there to take us out with this vaccine. We need to take this vaccine. Here's the face of the person, integral to the process of fast tracking it.
One of the things I posted on that Facebook thread where people were trying to debunk the vaccine was, look, I have medical people in my family. My daughter-in-law is an MD, my son is an MD, and both those medical professionals in my family say, get in line, get that vaccine as soon as you can. They're, of course, aware that there are underlying possibilities for people with allergies, and they're in full agreement that you take all the right precautions, but get the vaccine as soon as possible. That is my message as one of the Media Watch co-hosts to all our viewers out there.
My message as well.
And I hope, Ray, that this is enough, or at least this helps convince some of the older folks, like you said, would remember those awful tests, to that this is not the same era. We're in a new era. This is valid.
We are on the scientific team doing the research and bringing the stuff to market. So what else is going on COVID-19 I saw where this is the Wednesday before we air. I believe yesterday there was a report in the New York Times, at least I saw it in the Times, I'm sure it popped up somewhere else, that the first case of the mutant strain that caused Britain to lock down again has been found in the United States.
Apparently, we found a second case today, both in the same state, both in Colorado.
Both in Colorado. Okay, so
No, it was
guess what? The first case,
he never left the country.
there you go, and had no history of traveling or any of that. So when our governor, the guy that I was not always fond of, but who has actually risen to this crisis extremely well, I have to keep saying that so people know that I'm not a cheerleader for this guy. The guy who has risen to the occasion, when he took the federal government to task last week, which is a week and a half, 2 weeks when we air, because when that strain hit in Britain, he said, look, why is the federal government not shutting flights down from the UK? Why are we sitting here being sitting ducks again while they do nothing, while the EU and everybody else in Europe banning travel from the UK? Why is the United States of America not taking a national stand and banning these flights? And he is correct. What he was advocating, when he was advocating it, I was saying, don't matter. If it's been there, and I just discovered early today that it was discovered in Britain in September, okay?
Oh.
Back in September, the new strain was discovered. So as he was saying that, I'm saying, yeah, it's already here, okay? It's already here. Before I knew about the Colorado case, I knew it's already here. And what you said, Ray, nobody has a history of having traveled anywhere. So how did the Colorado people get that second strain? We don't know. All right.
But it's what we've all said, you, me and Ray, for the last few months. There is no national plan. If we had a national plan, how to react to things like this, instead of saying each state, you figure it out. You know, Cuomo wouldn't have had to get head of steam, and he didn't burn up, but he let, you know, he was upset, big time upset, that we have no, other than we, at the time we had no flight restrictions with the UK, and you know,
I think New Zealand is totally shut down. They're not letting anybody in.
they've been brilliant, Ray, down in New Zealand in handling it.
They started. They were on their feet right out of the box, and they did what they needed to do. And people cooperated. You've got a lot of people here who just in my neighborhood, I see people not wearing masks. They just go in the stores. They're not wearing masks, even though the store says, you know, mask required. But shop owners don't want to get into a confrontation, don't want to get into a physical confrontation. They're getting beat up. They're getting all kinds of atrocities perpetrated on them for just trying to enforce, not a law, but enforce a social concept that is going to save lives. People are dying. And it's like, this is a joke for some people. Well, until it hits their family. I've seen people turn around. You know, it's not real for a lot of people until they see it in their home. And unfortunately, it's real. You don't have to see it in your home. It's all over the place. People are dying, folks. People are dying. Wear your masks. Protect yourself. Keep your social distancing. No crowds. Seriously.
Problem because we've got no national policy. I think
there is no national
broadcast. You saw this broadcast. I saw the PBS Evening News 2 nights ago. Yeah, I think it was 2 nights ago, maybe last night. Had one of these virologist experts on, and he was talking about the fact that we were behind the power curve in not having a national policy. We were behind the power curve in not mandating masks. We were behind the power curve in any number of things.
Because we had somebody in charge who would not admit that there was a problem.
I don't even want to talk about that guy. I'm just recapping what the man is saying about the lack of a national policy. What my hope is that I've heard noises from Biden, Harris, that they will come up with a national policy. And yeah, it would be wise if they did. And it would be nice if they figured out a way to get people to comply with the national policy. But as you said, Ray, a lot of people don't want to comply, and they're not like the New Zealanders. There are people, 71 million people voted for that guy I don't want to talk about. And a whole bunch of that 71 million are part of this. I don't like to wear a mask because that's impinging on my God-given freedom of expression, blah, 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 blah. Your God-given freedom of expression doesn't give you the God-given right to kill me or kill your neighbors. And so the national policy needs to have some teeth in it. And with that, I think we should move on to another topic. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, we have about 7 minutes.
So basically, because we had ignored COVID because of the craziness in politics, we needed to do COVID. So updating it as best we could, I think, is a service to our viewers. The other end of year things that we should talk about that we could not gloss over, but at least mention. George Floyd, reckoning, the whole bit about this is a time of reckoning and maybe moving forward and changing the paradigm of Black people, brown people, poor people, because guess what? They kill poor people too by cops in this country. But Black and brown get it more. What I was looking for was a cessation of some of this stuff, but what I've seen between George Floyd's death in the middle of the year and December, there has been no cessation. December, the back end of December where we are, there were at least 2 recent killings by police of Black men. You guys probably know more about those stories than I do. Which one do you want to talk about first, real quick, Bob?
Well, the one in Columbus is the one that jumps out at me, the one where the Black gentleman was in a garage and the police had gotten a call about somebody turning over the car, just starting the car. It was a non-emergency call is what I'm saying. And so the officer shows up with a flashlight. The gentleman comes out of the garage holding his cell phone in his hand and not making any kind of threatening move. And the police officer shoots him dead on the spot. Doesn't provide any medical assistance for 6 minutes. And he expires. Of course, he had no gun, even though the police officer alleged that he had a gun. And fortunately, that police officer was immediately fired in Columbus, Ohio. And
no gun was found.
No gun was found. Nothing, no threatening movement, no gun was found. Nothing was in that hand. So I don't know, why that police officer shouted gun and needed to shoot.
Well, you know what I said earlier.
Have anything on that Texas shooting somewhere near Houston?
I'll pull that. I'll look at that one on the background while let's see here. It was in.
Ray?
I'm sorry?
You didn't have the Houston one queued?
No, I did not.
Okay, let me see if I can find it.
But yeah, that was another case which apparently did involve a suspect with a gun, but he was shot in the back. Yeah, I don't have that.
I see it. I got it.
You have it?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll read a quote from it.
Okay.
The footage released by the Lamarck Police Department does not include audio for the first 30 seconds, including the moment that Officer Jose Santos shot 22-year-old Joshua Feast. It shows Feast running from Santos, who has his weapon extended, and shows Feast lying on the ground wounded, while Santos yells, "Show me your hands," 3 times. So that's kind of strange that the man's already shot and you're asking him to show your hands. Show me your hands.
That happened in Columbus too. Same thing. He's down and he's asking the guy to flip over.
Yeah, right. Well, the video in the Texas case doesn't show a muzzle flash from the officer's gun, but the independent autopsy released last week by an attorney for Feast's family, which lo and behold is Ben Crump again, found that Feast died from a gunshot wound to the back. So running away and getting shot in the back. But of course, this is what the police officer in charge says. Police Chief Kirk Jackson said in a news release, We are releasing information as soon as we are able. We ask for continued patience as the investigation unfolds. Our condolences, thoughts, and prayers remain with the family and friends of Joshua Feast, end quote. However, the story goes on to say Jackson previously said that Feast was a person of interest in several recent shootings. Now, my question is, was he a person of interest in those recent shootings before he got shot in the back by Officer Santos, or did he become a person of interest after Officer Santos shot him in the back? See, that story leaves a lot to be desired. That's a throwaway line that should have never been in that story unless it was followed up, and it wasn't followed up. That's bad reporting, bad journalists.
We see that elsewhere. We see that elsewhere. We see
Blame the victim.
Yeah, exactly. They'll pull out something from the past and somehow make that part of a justification. But yeah.
So back end of 2020, the shootings of Black people by police officers, whether the police officers are white, brown, or Black, continues.
Yes, and we have about a minute and a half.
There was another story. Actually, it's related to Crump, the lawyer who was on that story, who was on just about every civil rights shooting issue around the country these days. But we don't want to get into that. That's for another show. Yeah. In the last 45 seconds, do you want to talk about the cell phone thing, or is?
Well, yeah, that'd be hard to squeeze in. We might have to mention that later. But with less than a minute, I'm just happy this year's coming to an end as we tape it before the year is over. So I'm glad the two of you are safe.
Raymond, we got this one thing that you want to mention, which is January 6th, right?
Oh, January 6th, have no fear, folks. No matter what Pence does, the joint houses of Congress have to approve it.
So you're saying that the last minute death spiral attempted coup that Tuberville incoming senator and whatever the other guy in Alabama in the House think they're going to try to pull is not going to have any success. Well, folks, we warned you about that last minute January 6th coup attempt. They will try it.
They will definitely try it, but they can't do it because both houses ultimately have to approve.
Okay, folks, I think we're out of time.
Yes.
This has been Media Watch. I'm Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube and Twitter at Media Watch EVT.
And I'm Raymond Peterson. Happy New Year. And I hope it's better than the last one.
Thank you, Ray.
Folks, we'll catch you the next time. And this is the opening show for 2021.